Hey friends, Patrick here again. Wanted to follow up on my last video concerning the Conservative Party. Now that the Liberals have announced that Canadians will not be able to travel without being vaccinated, the only hope for any semblance of freedoms, escape from tyranny and authoritarianism, is to vote for the Conservative Party. That's what I mentioned in my last video. I'd like to follow up on that because there are so many people that are committed to the People's Party. Look, I ran as a candidate in the People's Party in the last election, and I'd like to just clarify a few things moving forward. People say, oh, well, the Conservatives are just liberal light. Yeah, they are just liberal light, right? But the fact is, they are not as bad as the Liberals. You say, oh, well, it's just the lesser of two evils. Yes, it is the lesser of two evils. You want to have less evil? That's the option. People get into a bubble and they think, okay, it has to be the People's Party or nothing else because they have the best platform. This is their mindset. And I understand that, that's fine. But you also have to be realistic. If you are surrounding yourself in a bubble of only like-minded people, you have to get out and see how many people are coming up in the next generation that are committed liberals. Their mindset is committed liberal thinking, right? And this is what the next generation has been indoctrinated into in our university campuses, for example. And those people vote. Conservatives, older Canadians, they don't vote. They don't think it matters. They're too busy working or they don't care. But the younger, hardcore liberal fanatics, they will vote, right? And I'm generalizing, I know that, but you got to get a broad picture of what the fabric of Canadian society is like. Now, the thing that keeps coming up in the conversations that I see is that when Mark Friesen talked to Pieere Poilievre, he had a chance to ask him a couple of questions. He said, do you denounce the WEF? Pieere Poilievre said, yes. Yes, full stop, right? He says he's already announced that he doesn't want his members of his party to go to Davos. And then he said, well, do you denounce the Sustainable Development Goals? He said, well, I haven't read it. I'm not going to comment on something I haven't read. He didn't have all those separate goals at the top of his head. Is he going to denounce the goal of ending global poverty? Of course not. It was a setup. It was an unfair question to start with. It was disingenuous on the side of Mark Friesen to try and put him on the spot and catch him in a guy. Oh, you're a globalist too, because he's permanently got in his mind. Mark Friesen is just he's a globalist. That's it. It doesn't matter. That's not a fair assessment at all. He is not being intellectually honest by acting that way and putting him on the spot that way. It was not a fair question. And Poilievre responded the way a politician will respond. He'll just say, well, I'm not going to answer that. It's a little too, I'm not prepared for that question. How many sustainable development goals do you know off the top of your head that you can just respond to and say, yeah, I'm going to denounce each and every one of them? The same thing when Christine Anderson came to visit Canada and he denounced it. And they said, oh, that's horrible that he said that. Well, the fact of the matter is Christine Anderson came in and said that she had negative comments about Muslim religion. How well do you think that's going to go over in Canada when the Muslim population is far stronger than the Christian population in Canada? The Christian population in Canada has absolutely zero strength. They have this idea that has been embedded into their brains, separation of church and state. And that becomes a mantra, separation of church and state. You can't have the state and the church involved. Do you think that Muslim countries separate their religion from their political aspirations? No, not at all. Zero. The Muslim religion, Islam, is a powerful religion. That will be the future religion in Canada and probably globally because it meets all the criteria of the political power, right? It's a religion of submission, and it has a number of other characteristics that are appealing to those that are in power. And the Christian religion is absolutely passive. They have absolutely zero strength on political matters. And they proved that by rolling over and playing dead when the liberals said, you got to shut all your churches down. They were just like, yes, sir, no, sir. How high do you want us to jump? There was a couple of churches you could count on one hand that said, oh, bag that. We're gonna follow our values. And my hat's off to them because they had a bit of backbone. But the rest is... And so when Christine Anderson came over to visit, Pieere Poilievre distanced himself from her because he's a savvy politician. He's not stupid. And don't forget, in the last election, the leader of the Conservative Party was Erin O'Toole, who had no backbone, flip-flopped, was wholeheartedly trying to endorse left-wing ideology so that he could appeal to a broader base. And he, in fact, demoted Pieere Poilievre from his position when he was the leader of the Conservative Party. Now, Pieere Poilievre gets the last laugh. He's the leader of the opposition, and he's 180 degrees different from Erin O'Toole. He's got more backbone. Does he have to pander and cater to special interest groups? Yes, just like any politician has to that wants to gain an audience in Canada. Maxime Bernier's been to Davos. Does that make him a globalist? Oh, he's got a reason why he went and all that. And you could say the same thing. Now, I just want to leave this little tidbit. The People's Party has been asking candidates to run again. Over 100 vacancies, 100 people that ran in the last election are saying, I'm not running again. Why is that? I have an insider view of the People's Party by being a candidate. I respect the party. I give it my best shot. I tried hard, right? But there is no communication within the party. The person that leads that party is not Maxime Bernier. Just so you know, okay? And that person is inaccessible. You cannot have a meeting with that person because there are gatekeepers in the way that say, no, you have to do this. There is no communication to the individual candidates. No one ever called me saying, you're doing a good job. No one ever said, gee, I hope you run again. Nothing. Zero. The purpose of the People's Party is to fundraise so that they can pay the salaries of the leadership of that party, Maxime Bernier and that inner circle that runs the party. That is the purpose of the party, is to maintain the funding to pay their salaries. That's it. Nothing more. They don't give a rip about the candidates. Zero. There's no. That's why 100 of the, otherwise they would be gaining momentum and be looking forward to the next election. The strategy of the People's Party of Canada is this. They want the country to descend into chaos. They want the country to be overrun by mass immigration, and their strategy is to come back and pick up the pieces after the country is totally destroyed. After people get fed up of the liberal policies, then they figure they'll rise from the ashes and come in as kind of like a savior for the country. That's their strategy. Now, you want to tell me that that's a good strategy to have? They had 0 seats won in the last election. That should tell you something. That the media portrays them as right-wing extremists. They've been labeled that way from the get-go. And whether they don't care or they're not willing, I wanted to set up a meeting with the leader of that party to talk to them about their website policies that are poorly written. I've trained through the heydays of the direct marketing, hypnotic marketing, people like Joe Vitale. I went to train with him in Texas, and I studied I have a degree in commerce. I studied copywriting. I know how to write influential letters. This letter that Pieere Poilievre wrote right before the election, it landed on people's doorsteps the Friday before the election day, saying that if you vote for the People's Party, your vote will be wasted. That was professionally written by a professional copywriter. And that had to have cost a serious amount of money. I wanted to contribute to the People's Party by massaging their online presence with easily adjustments to make the presentation of their policies more sensible, more palatable, more not so harsh. There are simple little things you can do to make your communication friendlier, more open, more soft, right? It's not being deceptive. It's simple copywriting skills that a person needs to have when they're communicating on paper. The words that you're using, the adjectives that you're using, the placement of your words, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go into detail on here, but simple little things like that. No, that is not acceptable in the People's Party because it is a top-down and it is a closed club, just so you're aware. So from an insider's perspective, I'm telling you, there is no communication between the top and the individual people that decide to run. When the people decide to run, they're on their own. They got to do all their own fundraising, and it's not an easy job. Let me tell you, you got to work your butt off, right? And you don't get paid for that. What's your reward? You get slammed in the press, you get smeared, you get called a right-wing extremist or whatever, right? So it's not an easy go. Is the Conservative Party corrupt? Sure, of course it probably is. Maxime knows that. He's been on the inside of the Conservative Party, so he knows how corrupt it is. But the difference between leaders, you can see the difference between the leaders, between Erin O'Toole and Pieere Poilievre. And if you don't think there's a difference and that the atmosphere of the party can change by having a different leader at the top, then you're not paying attention. Look at the influence that Justin Trudeau has had on the Liberal Party. Huge. Whoever's at the top of the party makes a huge difference. Absolutely makes a huge difference. Are they still influenced by special interest groups, corporate and global interests? Absolutely, of course. But you do have to try and have a lesser evil than having a dictator as the Prime Minister of Canada, which is what Justin Trudeau is. So he has to be removed by the voters at all cost. And most of the people in Canada that would support a Conservative Party, whether it's the People's Party or the Conservative Party under Pieere Poilievre, don't vote. They're too busy watching CNN or CBC. They're stuck in front of their TV and they think, it doesn't matter. My vote's not going to count anyway. You got like 30% of the people vote. You got 60, 70% of people don't care. They think it doesn't matter. The most conservative people in Canada, the Mennonite community, they don't vote. Zero. They have zero interest in politics. So you have to look at the fabric of society that is willing to vote conservative, and it's a very small group of people that is growing smaller every day. The Luciferian forces, the satanic forces that are permeating the airwaves today, they are just trammeling through the school board system. First, it was the university system, right? The universities fell when I was in university in the 80s and 90s. That was when they fell to woke ideology, when they fell to the left-wing influence, the communist Marxist influence that was rampaging through the universities, and they had a field day. They took over, right? But since then, that has percolated down each level of education, down to the college level, down to high school. Now it's down to the elementary school, right? So as soon as a child gets put into a public school, the indoctrination starts from kindergarten now. From kindergarten. And that is what the next generation is going to be brought up on. Communist, Marxist ideology, no more meritocracy, right? It's equality for everybody. If you're not part of that religion, if you're not part of the left religion, then you're an apostate. You're kicked out. This is how the next generation is coming up. And the people of my generation don't see that. They think, the People's Party has a better platform and they're more honest and they're more real conservatives, so we have to vote for them. Well, you're throwing your vote away. That was proved in the last election. I had the same hope. I had the same naive ideology saying, yes, this is a better platform. It's more honest, it's less corrupt, and it's less influenced by globalist forces. That was my thinking too. And so you say, oh, well, you're a traitor, then you're not standing up for what you believe to be right. No, I'm realistic. You have to be sensible. You have to take the best course of action possible. And Pieere Poilievre is different than the leader that was in place when I ran for the People's Party. I would run again if Erin O'Toole was still in charge if it was only between Justin Trudeau and Erin O'Toole, I would run for the People's Party again. I would put my hat in the ring and I would say, yes, I want to run again. Put me somewhere, I'm no longer in the riding of Waterloo, but I would run anywhere. I would say, yes, I want to give it my best shot. I want to contribute and try and serve. But that's not the case. Pieere Poilievre is a sensible guy. He's a conservative. He's denounced the World Economic Forum. He has conservative policies. Are his policies perfect? No, of course not. Is he still dealing with globalists within his own party? Yes, absolutely. Are all the people that are running for the People's Party going to be perfect candidates? No, they're not going to be perfect either. So you have to look at the whole picture. You have to look at the fabric of Canadian society, and then you have to look at the fabric of the political parties that are running. You know that the Liberals are evil. They are all evil people. They are all liars, and they are all corrupt. The Liberal Party is not an option for somebody that is interested in having any sense of viability of the Canadian Constitution, the Canadian Bill of Rights. If you believe that the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms should be respected, then the Liberal Party is not for you. Period. That's it. They have no interest in honoring that. They are an extension of the Communist Party of China, and they are a nation state that is controlled by globalist forces. That is the Liberal Party. That's it. Period. They don't care about Canadian rights. They don't care about protecting you from their policies. We know that. So that's taken for granted, okay? Next, you have to decide, where is my vote going to make the biggest difference? Am I going to vote for the People's Party of Canada, which has zero chance of even gaining a seat? Has their position gained strength since the last election, or has it gone down? The last election, they gained 0 seats, and since the last election, their strength has gone down. That's a fact. There's 100 candidates that are not rerunning again. They said, bag that. Why did they say that? I'd be happy to discuss that with you, but I don't want to say anything bad about the People's Party. I still respect all the people that I met in that party. I respect the leaders of that party. I respect the regional directors of that party, and I don't want to unnecessarily slag them. Right? But the fact of them remains that their strength as a party was at its peak during the time when O'Toole was the leader of the opposition. Because then you had a huge distinction between the People's Party, which was a true conservative party, and the left-wing Erin O'Toole Conservative Party. It was not a conservative party at that time. It was a left-wing, liberal light, no different than Trudeau, just trying to keep up with Trudeau. That's all it was. So there was a distinct difference between the Conservatives then and the People's Party now. As soon as Pieere Poilievre gained control of the party, first of all, he strengthened the crap out of the party because he was a fundraising machine. He's raised more funds than all the other parties combined. And he adopted a number of true conservative policies, like denouncing the World Economic Forum, like speaking up for freedom for Canadians, like speaking up for fiscal responsibility. Is his platform perfect? No, of course it isn't. Is he different from Erin O'Toole? Hugely different. Hugely different. So the difference between Erin O'Toole and Maxime Bernier was huge. The difference between Pieere Poilievre and Maxime Bernier is a lot less. And people say, well, you're not sticking to your values. You still have to vote for the People's Party. Blah, blah. I'm never going to convince people that are hardcore People's Party, and that's fine. You're hardcore, dedicated, loyal to the People's Party. I'm happy for you. Good for you. You stick to your morals, okay? But I'm thinking about the future of Canada from going off the abyss, because I only have two choices at this point. Either the Conservatives win and Poilievre gets in power, or the Liberals win again and I got to leave the country, because I'm not sticking around if they're going to force jab me, period. I won't have a choice. I don't want to leave Canada. I love Canada. I'd love to stay here and retire in watch the sunset, right? But this is the only choice I have. And I know that the People's Party does not have the support, doesn't have the strength, both internally and externally. The Conservative Party has momentum. They have strong leadership. Maxime Bernier is a great leader. He's got the best resume of anybody in Canada, right? He's a strong leader, but Pieere Poilievre is stronger. I hate to tell you. Go to any of his meetups that Pieere Poilievre have. You can't even reach the guy because the lineup to shake his hand is around the block. And he fills packs. People are resonating with him as a leader. That's not my choice. That's just the way it is. Okay? Canadians are rallying around Pieere Poilievre as being their hope for anybody that is conservatively slanted. And by conservative, I mean sensible, time-tested, proven policies of rational fiscal responsibility, rational educational policies for children, rational dealing with global communications, global events of the world, and having Canada as an independent country and not just a slave to WEF policy at every turn. I don't want to go on forever. I've already gone past my time, so thank you for listening. I just wanted to try and explain my reasoning behind why it is vital that we remove the dictator that is in Ottawa right now, who his name is Justin Trudeau. He is destroying the country. His plan is to destroy the country. That's what he wants. He's already said that he hates anybody that's, old stock Canadians, he calls them. Anybody from that can trace their lineage back to Europe over more than a couple of generations. He hates that. He wants to destroy that. The only policies he's interested in is diversity, inclusion, and equity, which is a racist policy, so that if you don't fit into those BIPOC categories, then you're discriminated against, he wants to get rid of those people. And the people under him are even more vehemently full of hatred and racism towards old stock Canadians. That's what the term they use. They call them old stock Canadians. They want to remove them from the country. And worse, you can see, videos of people on university campuses that are violent. They're essentially domestic terrorists that want to destroy old stock Canadians, as they call them. And I would fit into that category. Unfortunately, I'm an old stock Canadian, even though my ancestors are immigrants, even though my ancestors mingled with the Mi'kmaq tribe in Eastern Canada, and that I probably have native blood in me, according to theancestry.com and all that stuff, right? So even though my ancestors were immigrants, that doesn't count, because I've been in Canada so long, I can recognize Liberal Party bullshit, and they say, oh, you're a threat to our party, you got to go, right? You're not allowed to get a job in a library, in a government position. You're not allowed to get a job in any school board, anything to do with anything government related. You're exempt. You are outside of the circle. You're outside of the club. And this is what's being perpetrated by the Liberal Party, right? They are a threat to the sovereignty of Canada. They are a threat to the future of Canada. They are a threat to the freedom of Canadians. 100%. 100%. You will have no freedoms under the Liberal Party of Canada. It's either their way or you get excommunicated. So the only hope for the future of Canada currently is the Conservative Party. If you want to wait until everything goes to crap and then hopefully that the People's Party will rise from the ashes and somehow miraculously gain popularity at that time, I don't think that's a winning strategy. Because then you're left with anarchy and anything can happen at that time. It's not a good strategy. In any event, I will be voting Conservative going forward. I feel it is the most sensible, realistic choice, and I would encourage anybody else to do the same, because I feel that is the only hope for a strong future Canada, right? Is it going to be perfect? No, it's not going to be perfect. We have to continue to push for sensible policies, for policies that put Canadians first, for policies that preserve freedom and democracy for Canadians, as opposed to globalist totalitarian oppression, which is what the Liberals want to bring in, right? That's the only option I have. So thank you for watching. God bless you. I hope you're doing well. Hope to talk to you again soon, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.